Welcome to Slash Forward. In this episode, we're going to expand on our pandemic survival skills with the 2002 British film 28 Days Later. If you'd like to continue improving your skills into the future, you might consider subscribing to the channel. Let's get to it. We open on newscasts of pandemonium and worldwide violence, panning out to see this is all being done in an attempt to teach a chimp how to be human. This research facility is then infiltrated by a group of eco-terrorists who are appalled by what they see. A scientist happens to stumble in and warns them that the primates are infected, but they came all this way, so they release the animals and learn all about the ravage virus. And we see that Bobo approves. A double fortnight later, Jim wakes up on a gurney in an unoccupied hospital, and he finds no signs of life, so he hydrates with a refreshing Pepsi product, proud sponsor of the apocalypse, and heads into the greater London area. He wanders aimlessly, exploring and getting hints here and there of what happened, eventually ending up in a house of worship where he prays to his god. His cries are answered with the unsettling deliverance of some aggressively violent folks, and he runs away when they ask him if he wants to talk about Jesus. In the ensuing chase, he finds assistance from some guerrilla warriors, who lay down a cover of Molotov cocktails and other major explosions. They take him back to their Pepsi stockpile and introduce themselves as Mark and Selena. They catch him up on how a new virus was unleashed and ripped through the general population too fast for a response. So pretty much everyone is assumed dead at this point. However, since this is a lot to take in and they have a policy about never being alone, they humor him with a field trip to check in on his family home. When they arrive, the smell implies what the eyes confirm in regards to his parents. He finds their final note and recommendation to him, and it's bleak. Since it's getting dark, they decide to spend the night there, where Jim breaks the cardinal rule of hallucinating while holding a candle, attracting a group of infected individuals. Under the imperative of their no-nonsense approach to survival, Selena saves Mark from the indignity of becoming a rager. This puts Jim off, but them's the rules, baby. They continue on, heading toward a beacon of potential safety. As they make their way up, they pause for a refreshing beverage, but are interrupted by a group of screeching infected that are pursuing them. This brings them to a large, brutish sentinel who takes care of the situation and leads them to safety. Their new friends are Frank and his daughter Hannah, with whom they share a celebratory drink and settle in for the night. The next day, we learn Frank has been experiencing some water problems, and has also picked up a recorded broadcast promising a virus-free outpost outside of Manchester. They can't decide on the likelihood of the blockade still existing, but they agree the city sucks, and they're likely better off going for it. So they pack up and drive off in Frank's taxi. They run into trouble early on as they unwisely opt to enter a tunnel. Although it's blocked, Frank knows his vehicle and makes his way over the mess. Of course, tires are still tires, so they're forced to stay in a vulnerable spot as they attempt to attach the spare. They're able to ride off just in time and are rewarded with a pristine grocery store on the other side. So they stock up and find a spot in the idyllic British countryside to have a picnic and bear witness to nature rudely carrying on without us. After a restful night's sleep, brought to you by Valium, their journey continues, but they're dismayed to arrive at the outskirts of Manchester to find the city aflame. When they reach the blockade, things do not look promising, and in the absence of both survivors and supplies, Frank takes his frustrations out on a pole, which results in a drop of tainted blood entering his eye. He warns them away, and they're saved from facing down a rage-infected Frank by the arrival of some bloodthirsty soldiers. They're escorted to a posh country estate, the last stronghold, and we learn they're well fortified with landmines and razor wire. And they have an infected private they're hoping to learn from by keeping him chained up in the courtyard, and that's just science. That evening, their tense philosophical dinner is interrupted by the sound of the claymores outside. Ready for a change of pace, the boys run off, hooting and hollering, gunning down as many as they can. In the post-skirmish excitement, Mitchell gives away the game a little, resulting in some infighting. Jim is separated from the others, and Major West lays it all out for him. The men have been despondent and suicidal, so he decided to brighten their future with the promise of delivering them women. Jim is free to hang with the guys, but only if he's cool with rape. He proves to not be and tries to get them out of there, but takes a butt to the face. He wakes up tied to a radiator next to Sergeant Farrell, the other moral dissenter. Farrell reveals his working theory that the world has just quarantined the outbreak to Great Britain, isolating it, as it were, to an island, while the rest of civilization goes on as normal. They're then taken on a forced march to their execution where, in the confusion regarding the preferable method of death, Jim manages to give his captors the slip and hop the wall. It's at this time that he sees an emblem of hope, so Jim runs to the blockade where he gets to crank it on the siren. When the men arrive, Jim manages to take one out and delay the major while he circles back to release Private Mailer, who breaches the house and quickly begins spreading his gift. Jim waits and watches from his perch as the men, in a state of confusion and disarray, succumb to the infected like dominoes. He eventually finds Mitchell and Selena and drops in on them. He puts on a performance so brutal that Selena believes he's been infected until she sees his eyes. And then Hannah finds them and breaks up their sloppy reunion. Wes is waiting for them in the cab, hoping to take his revenge. So Hannah postmates him to the front door and they bust out. We catch up with them later in the countryside where the infected are slowly starving to death. And we see that they've created a beacon for the jets that occasionally fly over, letting us know that everything's gonna be okay. And that was 28 Days Later, a movie that, at this point, needs no recommendation. It's a modern classic. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love for you to become a part of the channel by subscribing. Thanks for watching.